What's up everyone, it's Endymion, and oh boy do we have a spicy topic for this video. In case you were unaware, recently Magic the Gathering revealed that Aragorn from The Lord of the Rings is now black. And the internet is pissed off, and for good reason. So, is this change okay, and are you racist if you dislike this? That's what I want to discuss today, and I will be saying some uncomfortable truths here, so before you crucify me, try to hear me out. Here's the tweet that started this wildfire, which depicts Aragorn as a black man with gray hair and a goatee. In the literary works of Tolkien, Aragorn's race is Númenórean. They're basically humans, but stronger and live much longer than regular humans. Aragorn's description in the book is also described as a shaggy head of dark hair flecked with gray, and in a pale, stern face, a pair of keen gray eyes. With this official description by Tolkien himself, it stands to confirm that Aragorn is a European-looking white man with shaggy brown hair and hard eyes. In no way, shape, or form can someone read that description and come to the conclusion that Aragorn is a black man. But of course, in order to appease the almighty ESG score, Magic the Gathering has decided to change Aragorn into a black man. This change is simply being done for one very obvious reason, which is to appeal to woke identity politics in order to seem more inclusive, and to raise their ESG score as always. And by pushing representation even when it's not needed, Wizard of the Coast are able to showcase a beloved fan character in a new light in order to gather new investors that look for higher ESG scored companies to back. Nothing that is being done here is because Wizards of the Coast as a company really cares about representation. Because if they did, they wouldn't pander by changing the race of an established character to begin with, but would instead create new characters within the mythos to strengthen and broaden the property. But asking woke creators to make something that is both good and beloved is like asking your pet dog to build you a house. It's pretty much impossible to even suggest the idea. It's much easier for these talent-vacant creators to just cater to new trends by changing what's already established. It's why you're seeing a deluge of characters being race-swapped all over. A great example of this current trend is The Little Mermaid, which has of course sparked controversy. And while I am in no way saying that young black girls don't deserve representation, I do think it's insulting of companies like Disney to think race swapping an established beloved character is not only lazy, but insulting to the demographic they're catering to. Young black girls deserve representation, but it shouldn't come at the expense of other young girls. You could have easily have made another mermaid character with an original story, but like always, these companies took the lazy and easy way out. And not only that, but it unearths a very uncomfortable truth as well. You see, what these changes represent is that these companies like Wizard of the Coast, Disney, and so on are admitting that they only see true value in predominantly white characters. The idea of making a new character that could match or surpass Aragorn is impossible by woke creators. And instead of respecting people of color, these companies would rather take the easy route and just pander to seem inclusive. When they make characters like Aragorn or Ariel black, it sends the message that they only see value in characters that weren't black to begin with. The same can be said about Netflix and the whole fiasco surrounding Cleopatra. Instead of making a show about some other African ruler, Netflix decided it would be easier to pander by simply race-swapping someone like Cleopatra, which is because of name recognition, even if it makes zero sense at all. Basically, a lot of this nonsense stems from the simple truth that many multimedia companies these days are lazy and uninspired. They'd rather pander simply by giving you something you already had but change how it looks than come up with a truly new product. Stuff like this is happening all over. Just look at The Witcher Season 3, which recently announced that the bard Jaskier is now bisexual. Even though the character is not bi in the books, it's changed because Netflix needs representation in order to up their ESG score. None of these things are being done because the creators actually care about representation. If they did, they would work to create new icons for audiences to enjoy. But the fact they are only willing to give hand-me-downs of white characters disguised as people of color shows what they think of you. Aragorn being black is not surprising at all to me, neither as a Lord of the Rings fan or someone who champions common sense. Of course he's black now. It's so laughably on brand these days that I'm genuinely surprised if companies don't pander for woke points when it comes to their franchises. Wizards of the Coast even released a huge statement surrounding their new push for things like Black Aragorn, so let's see what they have to say for themselves, and I quote, "We are unabashedly excited to do just that, to reveal this updated vision of the Lord of the Rings through the lens of Magic's gameplay and values. The look and feel for the world, the characters, the weapons, the locations, and the story moments will be intimately familiar yet fresh and relevant to a wide audience. Some characters may look different from previous depictions, and that's intentional. Great works of art like The Lord of the Rings are only enhanced by having multiple interpretations in the world. We believe ours will bring joy to many, many fans of both Magic and Tolkien. Their fresh update was a conscious choice made in partnership between Wizards and MEE and was driven by two guiding principles. Diversity. The Lord of the Rings is about the different peoples of Middle-earth coming together to fight Sauron. Finding strength in their diversity, fans of all backgrounds have been enjoying these stories, characters, and locations for decades. And we wanted this set to reflect on that broad inclusion. Originality. The goal of this set is to express the story and settings of The Lord of the Rings through Magic the Gathering. Countless prior efforts have painted vivid pictures of this world. But our goal is a modern take on the work of Tolkien, lovingly crafted for an ever-expanding fandom. Our hope is that more people will see themselves reflected in the characters and that players and fans can find immense joy in telling these familiar stories through gameplay." End quote. There's this very annoying trend where these companies use the idea of representing the real world in fantasy as a shield against criticism, when the reason why people enjoy these franchises is because they're not like the real world. Again, with this PR statement from Magic, we can see that they're willing to burn bridges and lose revenue as long as they can push more representation. The whole PR angle of finding strength in diversity has always been in Lord of the Rings. It was showing hobbits, men, and even elves coming together to fight a common foe. But the thing is that Rings was always based off of Tolkien's home, which was of course Britain. It's crazy the difference between what modern day companies in control of IP say compared to the creators of the past.
Do you have some kind of mechanism in a sense so that you could make sure that you were true to Tolkien?
Well, we didn't want to put any of our own, certainly in terms of the thematic material, we didn't want to put any of our own baggage. I mean, we had no interest in putting our messages into this movie, but we thought that we should honor Tolkien by things. The countryside and the rise of evil, and he cared passionately about certain issues, and we thought what we should do to honor him is to make sure that what he cared about ends up in the movie. That's what we tried to do.
In the past, creators would create things to honor the source material and uphold the author's vision. Nowadays, these companies don't look to honor their creators, but fix what they don't like about them to fit their own narratives. As tired as it sounds, making Aragorn black is quite literally the same as making Black Panther white. Aragorn is so obviously described as a European man that there's literally no way you can depict it otherwise based on the source material. But everything must push the message, everything must be transformed to fit new ideals, and even if that means things become so far removed that they no longer in any way resemble what was, then it's deemed worth it by these people. The other hilarious quote was where Magic says their other main goal is originality, saying our goal is a modern take on the work of Tolkien, lovingly crafted for an ever-expanding fandom makes no sense when there's nothing original about this. You're just taking someone far more talented than you'll ever be made, and just completely changing it. It's the epitome of reversing the color of an image and then claiming it as something new. That's just lazy. But what else can we expect, really? If they actually meant what they said, they would just make new characters. A good example of something being made within the Rings universe but is its own thing is the Shadow of Mordor games. While I'm sure people had problems with parts of its lore, like turning Shelob into a humanoid creature instead of a massive spider, for example, at the very least the games were fun and gave us some new characters within the mythos. Of course, not all of it is a slam dunk, but it's a hell of a lot better than something like Rings of Power. It's just crazy when Peter Jackson's decades-old speech about him making the trilogy still rings true today. Nothing that Magic is doing here is original or unique. They are just another lazy company who can't make a new idea if their lives depended on it. Why not expand the Lord of the Rings mythos with a new age of characters? Of course, people would be upset initially because you're adding to the mythos. But if you were confident and talented enough, you could actually make new characters and stories while implementing representation without seeming like you're pandering. A good example of taking a book series and adapting them with new stories while honoring what came before would be the Witcher games by CD Projekt Red. Those games take place after the books, yet they honor their lore and characters while adding new ones to the universe. And by the way, The Witcher 3 just announced it sold over 50 million copies. So don't tell me that people don't want new stories or characters in established worlds that they love, when The Witcher quite literally disproves this by being not only a commercial success, but a critical one too. Wizards could hire actual competent writers and do what CD Projekt did with The Witcher when it comes to Lord of the Rings. They could create new stories with new characters while honoring the past and expanding the universe without shitting all over what fans loved about it to begin with. Imagine a new dawn of The Lord of the Rings being made by people who actually love the IP, and you get new movies and shows and games expanding the universe. But that would be hard work and require talent, so instead, here's Black Aragorn. Open your mouth, dear consumer, and consume the slop we're giving you, or we'll call you racist. But no, instead, every IP for the most part just has the same ideas recycled again and again. And when they do add new characters like Rey in Star Wars, they just kill off the original characters and have the new ones hijack their purpose and identity, which is also not the way to go. Imagine if CD made the Witcher games and then killed off Geralt only for a new Witcher to replace him and do the same thing and everything. That would be lame as hell. And because they didn't do that, they sold 50 million copies of one game. These companies wish they could do something like that. But these Western woke companies care little about their history and potential. So instead, here's something you love being recycled for the 10th time, but now everyone is black, gay, or has pronouns for days. And if you don't like it, we'll just call you a bigot or a racist and ignore it. Then we'll cry and panic when sales drop and we need to lay off half of our team, only to apologize, and once you get the goodwill again, you'll just do it again and again and again. For the sake of both our sanities, I'll just end it here by saying it's clearly not impossible to make new stories and profit immensely off of them. But these people are lazy and cowardly and only want to pander so websites will pat them on the back for it. In the end, Aragorn is not black, no amount of cultural revisionism will change that, and I hope Wizards, Magic, and all those involved lose all the money in the world so actual competent people can start making new stuff with the franchises we love. Until then, The Lord of the Rings is dead as long as it's in the hands of woke morons who only see value in white characters and are hell-bent on delivering hand-me-down remakes until the end of time. Screw Wizards of the Coast, screw Magic the Gathering, and screw all of the idiots involved in this blatant, racist reimagining. Thank you for watching, subscribe for more stuff like this, and like the video to help the channel out. No one should buy these products, so let's talk with the only language they understand, which is money. Thank you, and I'll see you in the next one.